Hello, Will Jocelyn here, author of God, Guts, and Gallantry, the biography of the amazing, courageous, and adventurous life of South Carolina's Major James Lide Coker. We're going to discuss origins. The Major actually went to Harvard's Lawrence School of Science and was both an accomplished scientist and a devoted biblical creationist. Unfortunately, and I think unnecessarily, when people discuss origins, they often generate more heat than light. Both sides seem emotionally charged and seem unwilling to lay aside their presuppositions for even a few moments of listening and constructive dialogue. Obviously, this isn't the best way to learn, but I think we can learn much from Major Coker's life, his writings and responses to Darwin, and from his numerous experiments in agriculture. For example, in his Coker Pedigreed Seed Company, the Major and DR used in true empirical science. In both the lab and field work, they used the scientific method of experimentation, observation, and repetition to breed superior pedigreed seeds of cotton and corn that as much as doubled output per acre. These observable and useful seed variations within a given species are certainly factual, and they fall under microevolution. Darwin also correctly observed analogous microevolution, as he saw the variations in the beaks of a certain species of finch in the Galapagos Islands. He correctly noted that the size and form of the beaks varied according to the food source in their given area. So the Major and Darwin were in complete agreement concerning microevolution, or changes within a species. But as you probably know, Darwin did not stop with empirically verifiable microevolution. With a faith in naturalism that was often more religious than scientific, Darwin speculated a broader, gradual, limitless molecules-to-man theory called macroevolution. Here the Major and Darwin parted ways, for in all his scientific lab work, the Major never saw an optimized cotton seed graduate up to another species, no matter how superior it remained cotton, and his corn, no matter how good his variety became, remained corn. And in his farm journal on page 28, the Major answered macroevolution. In his writings on the creation of man, the Major said, God was present there to direct and personally perform the work. We are not told that God's laws being established operated and produced that result. No. We are told that God made Adam of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. So we see that James did not give credence to Darwin's idea of gradual changes leading up to man. Well, the great irony of this whole thing is that Darwin himself freely admitted that the necessary transitional fossils for molecules to man macroevolution had not been found. In Origin of Species, Chapter 6, called Difficulties of the Theory, the English biologist wrote, "Why, if species have descended from another species by fine gradations, do we not everywhere see innumerable transitional forms?" Darwin tried to save his macroevolutionary theory by saying that transitional fossils would be found in time. But the ensuing 160 years of paleontology have not been kind to Darwin. For example, in 1977, Harvard paleontology professor Stephen J. Gould, who was perhaps the most famous paleontologist of the 20th century, after observing more than 100 years of subsequent fossil digs and evaluating the evidence, said the fossil record was still void of transitional forms. In Evolution's Erratic Pace, page 14, Gould wrote, "The extreme rarity of transitional forms in the fossil record persists as the trade secret of paleontology. The evolutionary trees that adorn our textbooks have data only at the tips and nodes of their branches. The rest is inference, however reasonable." In another work, The Pandas Thumb, on page 182, Gould added, in any local area, a species does not arise gradually by the gradual transformation of its ancestors. It appears all at once and fully formed. Gould also tried to save macroevolutionary theory by proposing a new and different theory called punctuated equilibrium, where one species suddenly jumped up to another with minimal transitions. However, I doubt that Major Coker would have given credence to punctuated equilibrium either, since it lacks the three pillars of the scientific method. It lacks experimentation, observation, and repetition. So, while we admit there is a conflict between biblical creation and unproven macroevolution, we can confidently say there is no conflict between creation and microevolution. In other words, there's no conflict between the Bible and Darwin's scientifically proven variations within a given species. So we see that Major Coker retains full credibility as a scientist and as a creationist. In Appendix 4 of the book, we'll go into these matters in a little more detail.